What's up, everyone? Jason here from Jason Brown Coaching. We're doing another programming review today. This one's a little bit different though. Me and this individual had some interaction on the interwebs prior to doing this video today, and that made me want to look a little bit deeper. Those comments have since been deleted, but I'm going to go into what was originally posted, what I had commented on, what feedback I got was, and then why I got to this point to look at this person's programming. So on this video, you're going to find out whether or not this programming is JB approved or JB disapproved. Stay tuned for more. What's up, everyone? Jason here for another programming breakdown. Recently, I interacted with this guy, OmarFit, on Instagram, and I went over to his YouTube channel to check things out. And this isn't something I normally do by engaging with influencers on Instagram, because sometimes there's a lot of pushback and a lot of times they don't respond. This guy actually did take the time to respond. He wrote me a very, very long and very defensive message, totally negating everything I pointed out. Just for a little bit of background, he's got a lot of posts that are stating swap running for this. I don't necessarily agree with that premise. I think running for a lot of people is not the right modality. I think there are potentially a lot of issues. It can be boring and it's not the right fit for everyone. Nothing is the right fit for everyone. That's what we know to be true about exercise as a whole. However, when you just make a blanket statement and saying that this is a comparable substitute, then we miss a lot in terms of the aerobic system. And we know that the aerobic system is developed due to largely cyclical measures. So if we were using cyclical measures like a bike, a row, it doesn't have to necessarily be running, it can be a lot of different things. We are going to arrive at better aerobic adaptations, specifically in the heart, when we're able to do things that keep blood pressure down and allow us to essentially build more capillaries and improve capillary surface area. So there's really a lot to unpack there. And throwing out something like that is something that I personally don't like. I feel like if you're going to put this stuff out there, then find a better way to get people to engage. And I get it that this guy's got over 300,000 followers, and if he went in to cite that, I'm trying to help the most amount of people, and I certainly get that, but we can be correct in the way that we address these things. And he was super defensive to me. He actually went on to delete my comments later on. He insulted me. So you know what? You want to insult me, then fine, but take the feedback for what it is, because if you're putting out information, try to put out better information. Try to put people in a position where they're more knowledgeable about why they're doing what they're doing versus just being defensive and deleting my comments. Doesn't make any sense to me, but to each his own. So with that said, I wanted to review one of his workouts. This is a lot of the stuff that this guy posts, OmarFit. The problem is with a lot of this stuff is that when you try to use these combination exercises, they look sexy. I get it. They get clicks. I get it. They're very lackluster because you're usually limited. Curl into a press, you're limited by how much you can curl. And usually the press will be as much stimulus with the press because the load is not the right fit. When you try to do a lunge into a curl, you are limited by the weight you can curl using for your single leg pattern. Combo exercises are, in my mind, most of them, there is a mismatch. Now, is that the case for all of them? May or may not be. It really depends on what we're doing. If we're doing a power clean and jerk with a barbell, that's a different story, right? But even still, power clean or a full clean, the limitation usually lies where people are weakest. And if it's with one of those patterns, then you leave one portion of that lift underdeveloped, which is why Olympic lifters will separate those movements and work on different limitations they have with maybe their clean or their jerk, so on and so forth. So this particular session here, this is the session. So we're doing 30 seconds of each exercise: squat, curl, press, single arm snatch. And I don't have to read this off to you, guys can see this, but just a lot of fluff. This session could be substantially better. Let's say we trim the fat on this and we just focus on the foundational movement patterns for a full body session. So we focus on one squat, which we could do with a goblet squat. We do one hinge. So maybe we do a single leg RDL variation. We do a press variation, maybe a dumbbell push press. We do a row variation. We could do a bent over row, single arm row, obviously a lot of different options there. But just for simplicity's sake, let's say he's using 2 dumbbells. So let's keep it to 2 dumbbells. Let's change this into a 20-minute AMRAP of 8 dumbbell squats with 2 dumbbells in the front rack position, 8 dumbbell push press, 8 dumbbell row, bent over dumbbell row, so double dumbbell row. Okay, so now we have our squat, we have our press, we have upper pull, so our row pattern. We need a hinge, we could throw in an RDL, and you could put that in order where one builds on the next as like a complex. So if I was to put this in order where we have a logical succession from the first movement to the last, it would be RDL would be first. I would likely go from the RDL to a row variation. Then from the row variation, I would clean the dumbbells up, which the clean could be a pattern in and of itself if you wanted to our front squat. And then from our front squat, I would go to our overhead press or push press pattern. And then from there, we essentially have all the foundational movement patterns. Now, if you wanted to include a single leg, you certainly could. We could progress right from that overhead to some type of reverse lunge or even a walking lunge and make it more demanding. And then I would rest 2 to 3 minutes between rounds, and we could could do that for 20 minutes with the goal of going for 4 to 5 rounds for most people. So we're going to only require one set of dumbbells of the same weight. In this case, for guys, anywhere from 35 to 45 pounds, probably not going to need a lot to make this work. For ladies, anywhere from 15 to 25 pounds is going to work very well. And then we rest again between rounds. He has a 20-minute workout here, which that would fit in. I actually didn't see that before I said 20-minute AMRAP. And now we have a whole lot less complexity. We're using one set of dumbbells where there's a succession from the first pattern to the next. And we don't have a massive discrepancy between loading. So the RDL is obviously going to be the pattern you probably can load the most. However, if we're doing this as a complex and doing it to be more metabolically demanding, then that's a great way to do this and get a lot of bang for the buck. Now, you're limited by the load you have in terms of what you have access to for dumbbells. If you're doing it in a home gym, maybe you don't have that many dumbbells, but you could do the same complex with kettlebells. There's a lot of different options here instead of having all this fluff. Now, if you wanted to finish with some direct arm work, some bis and tris, which he's got in here, and maybe some core work, you certainly could. And now we have a very well balanced, succinct workout where there isn't a discrepancy where you're going from, he's got you going from single arm snatch to lateral raise to hammer curl. Again, big mismatch. The exercise order here is way off, and it's just a lot of fluff. And unfortunately, this stuff gets a lot of likes and clicks on social media, and people don't judge this stuff by the actual effectiveness of what it is. They judge it by just how this guy looks and how it looks being performed. So again, just to reiterate, I would do a 20-minute AMRAP of an RDL, a row, a clean, a squat, some type of overhead press. So probably an overhead press, depending on how strong you are, an overhead press or a push press. If you're very weak overhead, you could use a little bit of leg drive and use a push press. And then I would potentially use some type of single leg pattern in there. I mean, you really don't need it, but you could put it in if you wanted to add even more metabolic stress. And then I would rest 2 to 3 minutes between rounds, possibly finish with some direct arm work, call it a day. Okay, you've got basically 30 minutes of total work for a really big bang for the buck without all this fluff, without all this learning curve, and very different than running though. So if your goal is improving aerobic capacity, then you would do your cyclical work on another day. Good example, cardiac output method, which is a method to improve aerobic capacity and essentially cardiac output, which is a product of heart rate and stroke volume. You could do 30 to 40 minutes of cyclical. So like go to your commercial gym, do 10 minutes on the air bike, 10 minutes on the Stairmaster, 10 minutes on the elliptical, 10 minutes on an incline treadmill, or even an easy jog on the treadmill. And then you have essentially 40 minutes of zone 2, which is 60 to 70% of max heart rate, where you are working on more aerobic system, which is going to afford you the ability to recover better between these sessions. It's going to afford you the ability to live longer and, to recover in the session itself. So it doesn't replace running. It's another form of training that has a number of purposes. Complexes have a lot of value with strength endurance. They have a lot of value with even improving body composition. But if your goal is improving body composition, having a set strength session, strength and hypertrophy session that you do, if your full body's your thing, you could do it 3 days per week and then have those sessions be bridged by your aerobic work. That is a much better way to program. That is a really efficient and effective way, which won't take a ton of time out of your life. You can get all of that done in about 4 hours of total training per week. Okay, so you don't need to be training every day. You can get this done very efficiently. This to me is just a lot of fluff. I wouldn't waste your time on this stuff. Hope that helps, guys, and we'll see you on the next video.